Hi, everybody. This is David Orlofsky, and welcome to the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who has davened for my well-being. Baruch Hashem. I took another test, and it's negative. So I'm, as far as Corona goes, I'm supposed to be fine. That's what they tell me. Other people tell me that 30% of the testing is wrong. I don't know, but what can I tell you? No tefillah ever goes to waste. There's a powerful idea. Anybody remembers there was a soldier, Nachman Waxman, who Nebuch was kidnapped, and he was eventually killed. And Israeli journalists, because of course it takes an Israeli journalist to have this level of sensitivity, said to his father, he says, I don't understand, all these people were praying to save your son. Why weren't their prayers answered? And he said, they were answered, they were told no. Now, who says that to a father who's just lost a child? I mean, you have to be, you'd think that was the sickest thing. Well, who knows? Some reporter just complained that as Donald Trump was being airlifted by helicopter to the medical center, he was upset that he didn't answer any questions. So, journalists have a very special place. But in any event, so Baruch Hashem, as far as I can tell, I'm okay. I'm feeling a lot better. And so, I don't know, maybe I never even had Corona. I don't even know. It could be I had it and I got better quickly. It could be I was already at the end of it when I tested. I don't know. But when Mr. Waxman was sitting Shiva, he gave a different answer. He said, when the soldiers who went to save my son, they found the safe house where he was being kept, and they went in, but there was like a door of like a safe, a vault. And they had to blow it open. And they lost the element of surprise, and that's how they were able to kill him. And he says, the soldiers came to see me afterwards, and they said, I don't know how we survived. There were bullets flying and hand grenades and all kinds of things were going on. I don't know how any of us got out of there alive. So Mr. Waxman said, Klal Yisrael davened to save the life of a Jewish boy, and their tefillahs were answered. It just wasn't mine. So all of the tefillahs, whether I actually had Corona or not, I like I say, I certainly seem rather unscathed from the experience. And hopefully all your tefillahs will go for all those people. Chaim Kanievsky should have a full refuah shlema. All the tefillahs should go there too. And listen, I don't know, it could be I was sick and I got better because of all your tefillahs. It wouldn't be the first time. Yeah, when I had my heart attack, and they did the angiogram, the doctor looked at me. He was the head of the department. And he said, "Why are you still alive?" He says, "You're not getting enough blood to keep you alive. Someone up there must like you." And the surgeon who did the surgery, he says, "You're lucky it was me. Anybody else, you'd be dead." So after that, whenever I would meet people and they'd say, we davened for you, I said, you should know it worked. Because two top doctors told me I shouldn't be around anymore. So I'm in overtime. Anyway, it's interesting. The Adam Arishon, it says, when you eat, you're going to die. So that day, but he went right into Shabbos and he got his Neshama Yisera. And the Chazal says that he lived off his Neshama Yisera for the rest of his life. So, Baruch Hashem. And but I would like to apologize for my appearance because we here in Israel are in lockdown, and so all essential services are denied to us, like hairstylists. You can't go get your hair done, right? Maybe if I was Speaker of the House, they'd make an exception for me, but as it is, No such luck. And so my wife just pointed out that my beard has gotten bushier. Now, I had at times in my life, this image that I was going to grow one of those Rosh Hashiva beards, one of those nice long, very chashuv. But my beard doesn't grow like that. It rolls in. So I just come out looking like the Wolfman. And at this point in my life, most of it comes in white, and I look like an old Wolfman. When I was in Avelis, I couldn't cut my hair for several months, So I met somebody who I had the chus of working with many times, and he says, "Wow, you've aged terribly." Apparently, when my beard comes in, it makes me look even older. So. Not as bad as my eyes. Genetically, my eyes hang down. So I couldn't see. My eyelids were literally, in fact, the doctor told me that my eyebrows had fallen off of my brow. They were just hanging down, and I couldn't see. So I went to get eye surgery. Yeah, what we call in the vernacular an eye job, Anyway, when I went for the post-surgery consultation. So he shows me before and after pictures. He says, "You see, now you don't look so tired and angry." I said, "Did it ever occur to you that I'm just tired and angry?" But it definitely took a few years of my life, although it did put a little strain on my marriage because my wife thought that I was making angry eyes. That was just what the surgery, gave me those eyes. Anyway. So Beseder, but so that's why. So I'm a little overgrown, and that's it. What can I tell you? But it's Sukkot, Baruch Hashem. I apologize to everybody out there who I really wanted to do part of a tefillah series, and I had lots of stuff that I really wanted to talk about. What can I tell you? I was definitely feeling sick. I don't know if I had corona. I don't know if I had a regular flu. I don't know if I was just tired and angry. Now you can't tell from my eyes, so how would you know? Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about tefillah, but first, a sponsorship. Nice people have been waiting a long time for this sponsorship. I apologize. This episode is sponsored by Shmuel Arnold in honor of the marriage of my daughter Naama Leah, who has always been a student of yours. Now, full disclosure, she got married a while ago, and he had sent me the sponsorship, and I think it was all the way back at Tu B'Av, and I was supposed to give a shout out. I forgot to give a shout out. I'm sorry. The one person you can't blame is my producer, because Michael handles everything. And in fact, because I was sick, I fell behind on the sponsorships. And I says, he's very efficient. Somebody sponsors an episode, he writes which episode you're going to get and the date, and puts in all the things, and he adds it on, and it's tremendous. But, I unfortunately, what can you do? Stars are a fickle group. These poor producers work so hard to try to produce a quality thing. There was a comedian, Jerry Seinfeld, and he says, he was getting an award for something, and he says, I don't know, what do awards mean? You get some actor, and basically we tell him, stand here, read what we wrote, just like we told you. Brilliant, the man is a genius, give that man an award. He read exactly what we told him, just the way we told him to do it. It's an art form. So anyway, in fact, I have to really get back to the Rabbi Orlofsky studios that Michael has his more high quality equipment where we're, but like I said, we're in lockdown here. So we're not really supposed to leave more than 100 meters from our house. People get stopped and get tickets, fines, all kinds of terrible things, unless you're protesting. So that's why we were going to have a Simchas Beis HaShoeva and put up a big sign, anti-Netanyahu rally. That would be okay. But anyway, be that as it may. So I want to read the sponsorship first and foremost. This episode was sponsored by Shmuel Arnold in honor of the marriage of my daughter Naamalea, who has always been a student of yours. When she was young, I used what I learned from your shiurim on answering questions to answer her questions. I do that too, by the way. My kids end up with a tremendous amount of information on basic Judaism that unfortunately many kids don't have. I remember we were on a flight once, and this yeshiva guy was sitting next to these two women. It was an El Al flight. So he asked my daughter if he would switch with her. My daughter was, I don't know, 12. Yeah. She said, sure. So he switches seats, and ends up these two ladies are Christian missionaries. And I felt bad for them because they were really not prepared. At the end, my daughter was inviting them over for Shabbos. Anyway, but to answer questions. When she was old enough, I gave her access to your shiurim so she could learn how to answer questions herself, and she has been a source of chizik wherever she goes. Beautiful. She used your mahalach when she spent the summer in Brandeis and was confronted by an anti-religious professor. Unbelievable, in Brandeis. I'm shocked. Anyway, she used it to answer questions in high school and in seminary. I hope that she didn't have an anti-religious professor there. Yeah. We owe you a tremendous debt of gratitude for all you have done for us, and we thank you both for your words of encouragement and your sense of humor. Most importantly, we thank you for your honesty and permission to be imperfect in a world that has very little room for mistakes. Keep up the good work. Baruch Hashem. If nothing else, you can count on me to be an inspiration for mediocrity. But the truth of the matter is, listen, I say it all the time, what can you do? The people who are tremendously inspiring, yeah, and have very great people with tremendous potential, aren't threatening to me. Because God made me extremely average. Yeah, one could argue below average, but at best, yeah. And what do? You play the hand you're dealt. Or as a backgammon player, I can tell you that one of the rules of backgammon is you never complain about the dice. Never complain about the dice, because sometimes it'll go your way, sometimes it won't go your way. You have to play the odds. You have to do what makes the most sense, even though it won't always work out. My mother would win by winning. She would just, whatever spin she wanted, she got. She would look at the board. She goes, I need a 6-2. Boom, there it was. And at the end, when you were take over your piece, just get double six. So my mother used to tell the story. She was on a plane that my parents were going to Ireland on a tour, and they were playing backgammon on the plane. And my mother had this unbelievable luck, and my father's screaming at her, "You're so lucky! I don't get it! What are you doing?" Yelling and yelling. So eventually, my father gets up to go to the bathroom, and this little Irish lady turns around and says, I think you should play something different with your husband. I don't think it's a good game to play. But you play it and you down, so you take what you have and you make the most of it. So I got so much to say. What are we going to do? I'm going to do a few podcasts over Sukkot. I hope I can catch up a little bit. I want to make up some sponsorships. I want to give you something to do during Chol Moed, assuming that you're locked down like we are. So I give you something to do. And gewaldig, all good things. So I'll tell you what I wanted to share with you. This is a special Sukkot, obviously, because the whole Sukkot is Derabanan. What's been? Except in the Beis HaMikdash, the mitzvah of the Dalet Minim, Lulav and Esrog, Harovim, Hadasim. All of these are only on the first day of Sukkot, with the Eraisa. The rest of the time is Derabanan. And this year, the first day of Sukkot was, of course, Shabbos. And we do not do the Dalet Minim when it comes out on Shabbos. Now, for those of you in America, okay, because at least you have 2 days Yantif, even though the second day is Derabanan, but you get to go through all the motions again to make it at least feel like you're having a Yantif. I mean, here we have 1 day of Yantif, that's it, it's over. And then you go in the Chol Moed. And So you don't have the mitzvah of lulav and esrog. I was in Eretz Yisrael years and years ago, and it was a year like this. And I asked somebody, "Did you get your daled minim yet? And your lulav and esrog?" He says, "No." So I said, "Why?" He says, "Because it's only Derabanan. So I'm going to go out Motzi Shabbos. I'll go to Machna Yehuda. They'll have everything dirt cheap because, no, there's not much of a market for citrons after the Sukkot holiday. The price of citrons drops dramatically. People are not, a lemon on steroids. No, but nobody's looking for this. It's not in big demand, Around Sukkot time, they candy them so you have another fruit to eat. But for the most part, it's not the kind of a fruit that's in big demand. So okay. So we say the Hoshanas, and we don't march around because if you live in Esrog, even though marching around today is anyway a problem, social distancing. Someone sent me a picture of how you do hakafas. It was a revolving door, so everybody goes to one of the sections and turns around. Brilliant, actually. But anyway, I remember reading years ago that a revolving door is extremely expensive. Extremely expensive. Like at the time, this is an old article. It was like $100,000 for a revolving door. It's much more now. And they say the reason people do it is because if you open the door and close the door constantly, the amount that you'll spend on temperature control, you'll lose a lot of money. So this way, the revolving door helps to keep that. Yeah. So, in any event, just a little fun fact. Got so many of them. Yeah. And I remember we were learning Bechoros. I give a little daf yomi here. Yeah. So it talks about if you have an animal that's a cross between a goat and a sheep. And I said, that's called either a geep or a shoat. So She said, "You just made that up on the spot." I said, "No, you can call it either legitimately a geep or a shoat." And they said, "Can't be." So it's not like the old days. You had to go running for the encyclopedia and look it up. They go on Google. And the person says, "He's right. How could you possibly know that?" And I said, "Because I had a brother who used to bring me his old bathroom readers, and they have these little facts on the bottom of the page. And I just remember that it said, that a cross between a goat and a sheep is either called a geep or a shoat." That stuck with me. Why? I don't know why it stuck with me. So I once read an article about revolving doors. And so, in any event, so you say the Hoshanas. Now in Eretz Yisrael, Minhag Hagra is when there is a lulav and esrog, so you say Hallel with your non-nuim, and you immediately do Hoshanas. Right? I think that's the Groz Minhag, and it's certainly less wear and tear on the daled minim. Yeah. So you don't have to put them away, take them out, and But on Shabbos, when there are no daled minim, so we do the Hallel, and then you just say Hoshanas. And normally when you're marching around, especially if there's a tall person behind you and he's resting his machzah on your head, or when you have people who are sort of poking with their lulav. So it's really a little harder to concentrate. And if you're busy being upset about the person in front of you who's schlepping, and the people behind you are all pushing, and this person's schlepping, it's you try. Do I circle around? Do I try to get around him? Do I don't know how it works every place, but in some shuls, there's certain people who set up the path, and if you break the path, there's always people who cut to the middle and just walk around the bima, they get very upset. very upset. So you have to be very careful here. You don't want to start arguing with people who have long, pointy sticks in their hands. But anyway, so it's not always easy to concentrate on what you're saying. But here I'm sitting nice and quiet, socially distanced at my neighbor's minyan downstairs, the Rubin family. They should be well. And they set me up a little corner, far away from people. That's in general, even not even because of Corona, just in general, they like to sit me up. I'm just kidding. They brought me over a little table. I was like a king. Yeah. Anyway, so I had a chance to really go through it. And a number of things caught my eye that I want to share with you. I'm not going to learn the whole thing. We're just going to run through it. Gomeres Hilchos Shabbos, Hoshana. Yeah. The Reshes Mas'es Shabbos. Talk about the, I assume, carrying on Shabbos. Hakovas Alpayim Tchum Shabbos. Now that caught my eye right away, because we have an online Daf Yomi share. Those who would like to join, it is definitely an experience. And some people can't make it all the time, but it is recorded for people in the share that they can listen to it. And it says, you made the Tchum Shabbos 2,000 amos. Now, what that means is, and this is where we're up to right now, is how you calculate your city. You make a shape of your city, and then you square it, and then you make 2,000 amos square around that, and that's as far as you're allowed to walk on Shabbos, unless you make an Erev Tchumin. Yeah, but otherwise that's it. So you establish Tchum Shabbos, and I thought that's so interesting because almost everybody holds that it's Derabanan. It's not a Deraisa. Rabbi Akiva holds it's Deraisa, but for the most part, people hold it's Derabanan. I'm thinking, why would you pick out, of all things, Tchum Shabbos? Yeah. Umashivas Rego Mishabbos. You're not allowed to walk beyond your place on Shabbos. Again, Choshel Mahir B'Yah Shabbos, you wait for Shabbos to come in to Rachas, Kol Mishisha Shabbos, you work 6 days for Shabbos, you Shevesh Umaptenis Ad Klos Shabbos, you wait for Shabbos to go out, Covered Va'onei Karel Shabbos, Levush Uchsus Mechaleves B'Shabbos, you change your clothing, Machol Mishta Mechinol Shabbos, you make special food, Sudu Shalosh Mekayemes B'Shabbos, Al Shtei Kikaras, Lechem Mishnah, Paretes Arba Rishuyos B'Shabbos, and you set up before Rishuyos, Shus Yoch Rishus Rabim, which is one of those words that don't really help me because I don't ever use them in real life. Domain, public domain, and a private domain. I don't know who really uses those kind of words, but you're not allowed to carry from the Torah from a Rishus Yochid to Rishus Rabim and vice versa. But then there are two others. That's what's called the Carmelis, which is something that's not a Rishus Yochid and not a Rishus Rabim. And there's a Makkah Patur, a place where it doesn't even count. Nothing counts there. Yeah. Tzivoy Hadlekes Nea Madlekes B'Shabbos, Shabbos candles, also Midrabanan. Kiddush Hayom Mikadeshes B'Shabbos, you make Kiddush on Shabbos, which could also be a Derabanan, because if you daven Ma'ariv, you already said Kiddush in Shmona Esrei. Renan Sheva Mispalos for Shabbos, the fact that you say the Shmona Esrei has 7 brachas, etc. And I was surprised. If I was going to make a paragraph speaking about Shabbos, I think I would make it mostly Melachas D'Oraisa. Zriya, Charisha, Bishul, planting, harvesting, cooking, all kinds of things like this. You talk about Tchum Shabbos? You talk about carrying? And all the other things that go with that? Seems like a strange thing to focus on. So So I realized we have a diaraisa, a mitzvah from the Torah, on the first day of Sukkot to take your Daled Minim, take your Lulav, take your Esrog, take your Adasim, take your Aravas, and to wave them. And the Chacham said, don't do it. Why? Because it could be somebody won't know what to do, and they'll carry it. I know there are people who, every single Sukkot, they have to know again, how do you hold the Lulav and Esrog, how do you turn it over, what directions you wave in, you know what I mean? Every year, they need a little refresher course on this. So someone's going to take it to you and say, show me how to do a little Esrog. Yeah. And because we're afraid that someone might carry it, so we don't do a little Esrog on the only day that we have that's the Eraisa. The Rambam holds that, if you go to the Kotel, so over there you could also do it into the Eraisa. That's why some people go, but now with Corona, we can't really do that, so it's a mess. But yeah, that's the one the Eraisa, and we stop it for that. It's so interesting, by the way. This is unrelated to what I wanted to talk about, but sometimes people miss the point. Not the Shila Shiva of Or Sameach tells the story about this woman who said to him once, we're always careful to have a Pesach Seder. And we always invite over the family to have a Pesach Seder. And one year I realized I forgot to ask the butcher for shank bone. So I went to the freezer, I took out a pork chop, and I put it on the Seder plate. Didn't even realize. I didn't even realize that there's a problem there. Yeah. So so you have to have a little perspective. Yeah. So there was this Reform temple that kept one day Rosh Hashanah. I said 2 days Rosh Hashanah. That's rabbinic origin. They have only one day Rosh Hashanah. But if that day Rosh Hashanah came out on Shabbos, they didn't blow shofar. Because they know you don't blow shofar when it comes out on Shabbos. But the reason you don't blow shofar is because you're afraid someone might carry a shofar. You ask somebody to blow. It's a din Derabanan. You took away the second day of Rosh Hashanah, and then you keep the Derabanan of not blowing the shofar. Yeah. So what are we saying here? We're saying we're supposed to be doing the Dalet Minim. But we're not doing it because there's so much of Shabbos that the power of it comes from the Derabanan. The whole idea of Tchum Shabbos, of the 4 Rishuyos on Shabbos, on the various carryings on Shabbos. When Moshe Feinstein asks, we have a D'Oraisa to blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah. But like this year, when it comes out on Shabbos, you don't blow. He says, but when you blow shofar, Kadosh Baruch Hu moves from the Kisei Adin to the Kisei Arachman. He moves from the throne of judgment to the throne of mercy. It's so important. How could you take it out? So he says, Rav Sadia Gaon brings 10 reasons why we blow shofar. And one of them is to remind us of the words of the sages. So when we are Mekayim not blowing a shofar because the Chachamim told us not to blow shofar, that's blowing shofar. So when we talk about the mitzvah of Dalet Minim, and we say that we don't do it on Shabbos because the Chachamim tell us, then the praise we give about Shabbos is how Shabbos has become so meaningful for us through the words of the Chachamim. You take out the Derabanans and you lose a tremendous amount. The reason we don't do business on Shabbos is Derabanan. There's a lot of things you could do, So one reason is because you might come to write. There was an army base here in Israel. It was very hot, and the PX has to be closed. And the soldier was in charge. I said, listen, we want to go in and get ISIS. He says, I can't. I'm not allowed to open on Shabbos. So they said, come on, it's so hot. He says, all right, I'll unlock it. Take whatever you want, just write it down. If they would have given money, it would have been a Derabanan instead, But it's also because you could take away the spirit of Shabbos. When I was in NCSY, so So the legendary Shmuel Klaver, yeah, from Ruach Orchestra, dear friend. So wherever we were, he would make himself the president of whatever it was, and he would get up and make announcements. And evidently, we were at a hotel, and they had a Shabbos elevator. And I had never seen a Shabbos elevator. I was like, well, what is a Shabbos elevator, you know? So he got up to make his announcements, and he says, you may have noticed that we have a Shabbos elevator. During free time, the Shabbos bus is going to take you to the Shabbos mall. We were going to give you special Shabbos money so that you can buy things, but don't carry it back because it's Shabbos. The idea being, of course, that you could take away from the spirit of Shabbos. That's a whole category known as Uvda D'Chol, where Shabbos begins to lose its character and its importance. And what can I tell you? Daf Yomi, we just did a Gemara not that long ago with Rabbi Akiva. When Rabbi Akiva was in prison, so one of his Talmidim would bring him food and water. Now, he needed water in order to be able to wash. Yeah. His student was bringing the water, and the guy looks at it and says, what's all this water? He doesn't need so much water. Are you trying to dig a hole? You're going to wear it away? So he spills out the water and leaves him a little water to drink. When he gets the water, so Rabbi Akiva washes his hands to his bread. And the Talmud starts crying, and he says, Rebbe, you're 120 years old. You don't have enough water here to drink. He says, I would rather die than go against the words of the Chachamim. And it's so interesting how this comes up in Sukkot. There's a halacha Moshe Sinai called Nisuch HaMayim. They would pour water on the Mizbeach, and that was the Simchas Beis HaShoeva, where they would sing as they would bring the water up, etc. And the Tzadukim didn't accept it. They didn't accept the Chachamim, so they didn't accept. It's not written in the Torah. So Yanai HaMelech becomes a Tzaduki. And he takes the water, he pours it on his feet instead of on the Mizbeach. And the people pelted him with their esrogim. He sends in the soldiers, and there's a slaughter, but the idea of not having, how the Gemara ends? Gemara Sukkah? Talking about Bas Bilga, who was a daughter of from the Kohanim in the house of Bilga. And when the Greeks came in to desecrate the Beis HaMikdash, she comes in with her shoe and bangs on the Mizbeach, locust, locust, you wolf, you eat the korbanos of Bnei Yisrael, and you don't protect them in their time of need. And I thought it's so interesting that Sukkot seems to have so much of this, so much of the Derabanans that are associated with it. And the Tzadukim, Yanai is sort of the end of the Hanukkah story, sort of sad end to the Hanukkah story. Because Shimon HaMaccabee, who was the last surviving brother, became Nasi, and his son Yochanan Hyrcanus, who was the Kohen Gadol, took over after him, and his son Yanai made himself both king and Kohen Gadol. And he wasn't allowed to be a Kohen Gadol because his mother was a shvuya; she had been captured by the non-Jews, and that's why the Tzadukim were able to convince him to go against the Chachamim. So it's interesting that these different references should be there. So we're going to talk about that next time. Mirz Hashem, this connection of the Greeks to Sukkot and the Nisuch HaMayim and Yanai and the Derabanans and all these different ideas that go into it. But just, you have people, when it comes to Yontif Sheni, just a Derabanan. Just a Derabanan. You have people I know don't wash. When I was in school, we were having a lunch class. So I went to the bench. I said, how many people washed? No hands went up. So they said, ask how many people had bread. They said, how many people had bread? And all the hands went up. It's a Derabanan. Rabbi Akiva was 120 years old. He was not in great health. It was being at the end of his life, and all he could worry about was until Yadayim. So we missed the D'oraisa mitzvah of Daled Minim. Why? In order to be mechazek the din derabanan that we were afraid somebody would carry around. And maybe we'll throw in one last point. We know that the Daled Minim represent 4 types of Jews. Right? The dates have a nice taste, but they don't have a smell. The hadassim, the myrtle, have a nice smell, but they don't have a taste. The esrog has a good smell and a good taste, and the willow have neither one. And we tie them all together as Klal Yisrael. The only reason, how many people don't know not to go and carry? So it has to be somebody who's a willow. And it's for those willows that the Rabbanan said, don't do the mitzvah d'oraisa of the Daled Minim. Well, that's it for this week. Well, that's it for this episode. If you want to find out more about the show, you go to RabbiOrlofsky.com. Leave a comment. You can send an email. I'm way behind on my emails. I apologize. As I mentioned, I haven't been well, so I have to really catch up on them. I haven't forgotten you. I just have to, have the presence of mind. And that's it for this episode. This is David Orlofsky, and this is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.
It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Knowledge and wisdom will help you grow. Lots of fun in every episode, and we don't have to rhyme. No, we don't. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show on RabbiOrlofsky.com. Torah anytime, YouTube and more. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Till next time, till we meet again. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.